All right, so welcome everybody to Spiritual Experiencers. And my name is Catherine Chapey, and I'm so excited to be here today with all of you. Today we have a wonderful person that's going to be speaking and sharing his story and sharing about his journey with us. And his name is Steve Noack. And I'm just gonna introduce Steve. Steve Noack is an NDE survivor, speaker, and a quantum healer. At 4 years old, Steve was struck by a motor vehicle, and during his near-death experience, he awoke to find himself sitting with a being of light who proceeded to show him the quantum field and how it connects all beings. In 2008, he was contacted again, then began receiving visitations, during which he was guided on how to heal himself and others. Steve has been both a speaker and a healer at conferences for near-death studies in North Carolina, Phoenix, and the Hart Center. He has also been a guest on radio programs such as Coast to Coast and Horsefly Chronicles. Steve shares his gifts with clients around the world with the hope through sharing his gift, people are able to experience their own unique potential to heal. Steve now shares his gifts internationally and locally. So welcome, Steve. It's so nice to have you here with us.
Happy to be here. I appreciate the time to share.
Welcome. So glad you're here with us. So let me bring you in on Spotlight. Here we go.
That means
So
I have to look at myself, huh?
I love your background too. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Well,
All
thank
right.
you, thank you. Kind of inspired by some of the things I saw. So,
Yeah. Well, start anywhere you'd like.
sure. Well, my name's Stephen Noack. I had an NDE at 4 years old. I experienced a lot of wild things during it. I knew something had happened that was very different. I knew waking up like right away. I was asking what happened, and I was being told it was an accident, and it didn't feel right. So a few years later, I start to have the memories come back. The more I think about the accident, the more emotional it gets, the more memories come back. I try to talk about it with my parents, friends, and I realize it's probably not a good thing to talk about. And this was probably around the age of like 11 to 14. Um, I start to get the memories back of what I experienced. I learned to hide it pretty quickly. And it was something that became kind of like there was shame, but there was also a deep discord between me and other people and people who were supposed to care about me that didn't listen. And it felt deeply hurtful to try to share the experience. And so to even be here today sharing it is amazing because I was fine with healing people and helping people and not really sharing the whole story because of how different and strange it was. Um, but 4 years old, I have the experience. I begin to remember, and here's how the 4 year old experience went. Not to mention being contacted many years later. Um, so 4 years old, I'm on a big wheel. It's a very small tricycle. It's a couple inches off the ground, very low to the ground, and I'm across the street from my house. And my brother comes to the edge of the road, on the other side of the street, and he tells me to come home. I think he said we're going to the mall, and I got super excited because naturally that's toys. So I just said okay, and I went down the driveway in between two parked cars, and there was another car coming, and the car hit me, and I was actually so small, and she was drinking, so she didn't know she had hit me, so she just kept going, probably for another 25, 30 feet until the stop sign, and then people had stopped her and told her. So what I remember is a blur. Um, my big wheel actually saved my life, believe it or not, because I was dragged underneath the car for quite a bit. So I remember a blur and then just being above my body and seeing my body, seeing myself, and I see my eyes just roll back in my head, and then everything just fades like the end of a movie, and it opens up again. And when it opens up, I'm sitting on someone's lap and I'm leaning on them, and my head is kind of like on their chest, and they're holding me. And I gathered, that this is a person. That's my first thought or feeling, was to ask what happened. And so as I'm laying there, I open my eyes and I notice a little glimpse of hair that seemed to touch the ground, almost like it was just above the ground, and it was silvery, like whitish hair. And I see the bottom of a robe, just the bottom of a robe, no feet or anything. I could just see this hair and feet. And I turn to ask what I assume is a person. I'm still disoriented, I suppose. And I turned to ask this person what happened, and it wasn't a person. It was a being of light in a hooded robe. And so I turn, and what I think is a face, and I'm going to say, "Hey, what happened?" "Oh, this happened." It wasn't that at all. There was no face. There was only light where the face should be. And I still ask my question, "What happened?" And they say, "Stephen, put your head down. Everything's going to be all right." And I do this, and as I do this, I just put my head back down on the chest, and I'm just looking at this being's face, and I'm suddenly getting pulled, and I feel myself just going into this light of, I don't know if you would call it a tunnel, but I mean, I suppose inside a hood, you could look at it that way, but I was going into this light, and I felt myself just being pulled like an elastic. It was like I was being stretched out, and I don't know how long in time that lasted, but it seemed like we traveled for a bit, and then all of a sudden the scene starts materializing in front of me, and it's the most perfect nature scene you could ever imagine, times 1,000. There's meadows and there's rivers and there's streams and there's flowers and there's paths, and it's pristine, and it's so crystal clear that it's like being in my body is like being in a glass tube television, and then that's like being in a high definition television. And it was so perfect and clear, and I noticed the colors of the flowers, like how beautiful and alive they were. They seemed to be alive and vibrating, and there was something about the free will, and that these energies and beings were choosing to be there. It wasn't something that they had to do, is to share that experience with us. But so there were colors, and they were just so many colors I've never seen still to this day. So many flowers. It was perfect, vibrant. And I noticed there's people like kind of over here and over here and over here. And they're kind of like, you can kind of see them, but they're mostly silhouettes, almost like in the distance, and they're playing. Um, and there's some playing over here. And I'm starting to get this feeling, and of course the remembrance of it when everything comes back, that this is the greatest carnival in the world. It's the greatest experience I've ever experienced. And I noticed there's an elderly man and a young girl off to my left, and it sounds strange, but they're far away in the distance, but they're also right next to me. And so they're playing, and this little girl lets out this laugh, and this laugh just goes through the atmosphere, whatever it is, and it touches the center of my chest, and then some type of energy expanded through me, and I knew everything was one, that everything came from this place, everything's going to eventually go back to it, that everything had to be love in order to be there, that it was my home, I wanted to stay there. And so as that experience occurs, and I'm feeling that pain didn't exist there, hate didn't exist there, suffering. And it wasn't that it couldn't manufacture function because it was so pure. And that's what I was feeling. And I wanted to stay there. Um, that's when the being says, "It's not your time yet." And it was like someone grabbed the scene and just pulled the curtain, and that scene was just wiped away. And I'm standing in kind of like a night sky, but without stars. It wasn't quite black, but it was like a night sky. And so I'm just kind of standing there, not really thinking through any of this. I think possibly my only thoughts were in afterthought, like why wasn't I using my mouth to speak or ask questions and things like that. But during it, it was just kind of like one thing to the other and absorbing. And so I'm standing there in this night sky, and I start to notice these blue lines start to come down, and these straight lines come down, and these straight lines come across, and it looks like a grid or graph paper. And I just have the thought, what's this? And I hear the being or a voice say to me, this is the quantum field. This connects all living beings together as one. And I'm like, okay. And that fades away. The next thing I experienced was this glowing, it's like just standing out in this night sky. It was this shape, and it was up to my left, and it looked like a credit card, but it was missing a corner, and it had circuits on it. And when I had the thought, what's that? That's when I hear, this is your divine blueprint. This is the original image that you were made in, and all people possess one. And so a lot comes with that later. And so that's the end of that, and that fades away. And then the next thing I see is a pillar of light just comes straight down in front of me. And the being says to me, you are this energy. As you come into the world, you're perfect. And then you spend your energy to have an experience with material reality. And as the being says, you're going to spend your energy to have an experience with material reality. I see energy go out from this pillar of light, and it's placed in this screen that's going around. And it almost looks like little TV sets or memories at the end of this energy extension into the screen. And the being says, this is like a life review, but you're not going to have a life review now. You're going to have yours while you're alive. And that was very much the case, is doing the life review while I was alive. But the being said, this is a life review. You're not going to have yours now. You'll have yours later. And the being also said, all of your thoughts and experiences and emotions are stored in this screen. Everything's recorded. And it wasn't like a judgment thing. It was almost like an easing, if anything, for me to remember that, that I'm having an experience, and that really judgment was irrelevant. It was just an experience to learn and grow. But so that pillar of light comes down. I see this screen. I'm standing in this experience that you could kind of call like a life review. I'm told I'm not going to have it now. I'm going to have it later. My thoughts and experiences and humanities is recorded in this screen or field. So that fades, okay, just goes away, almost like it's being projected in front of me, and somebody turns off the projector. And the next thing I see, and I'm still in this night sky, is a triangle just slowly coming towards me. And it's slowly coming towards me, and it's getting bigger and bigger. And it stops in front of me, and naturally, what's this? And that's when I hear the voice say, this is the Trinity. This is Father, Mother, Son. Make these three one. And that's all I got on the triangle, the Trinity. Many, many years later, when I was contacted, and at that time, I was pretty burnt into being a skeptic. I actually figured if there was a God, God doesn't like me. And that was the honest truth. And so they talk about the Trinity, the triangle, Father, Mother, Son. They tell me to make these three one. That's it. That's the only recollection I have of those mechanisms. I don't know what you would call them, but I'm left with this deep, deep impression that something wild and crazy and it happened something happened, and I knew it was more than an accident. And I'm asking my parents as I wake up a few days later with broken ribs. I had collapsed lungs. I had a broken shoulder blade, broken collarbone. Like half of my body was road rash, and a few other things. I was pretty beat up. I think I was, gosh, I was so tiny at that time. I was 4. So I wake up and I'm like, something happened. What happened? And my parents say, you're in an accident. And I'm like, no, it doesn't feel right. Start to have the memories come back, share them as I said, and not really knowing what they're meaning, but I'm excited about it. And it's, wow, this happened to me. And I learned really quickly that other people weren't as excited as I was about it, and to be quiet. And as I'm going through this stage of learning to just keep it to myself, I'm telling myself it's a memory of something that happened. It's what happens when we die. It's what happens when you have this happen. And it's not, I'm just putting it behind me mostly. And during this time, I'm having visions, and I don't really make the connection right away that I'm having visions of this line that is going through the chest of every single person. Like they would just come and then they would go. And I could see some people were lit up and some people were off, like a light bulb, like some were on. And even though they were all connected, that some were online and some were offline. So I would have those visions. I would have a lot of other visions that I couldn't make sense of. My parents actually brought me to an eye doctor because for a while it would happen so frequently that my vision would scramble, and it was like I would go away and I didn't know where I was, and I would come back. And it was like the kid in Willy Wonka. It looked like just pieces of everything. And so there was always extra sensitivity. I didn't really understand how people didn't feel what I felt and see what I saw and other things. So I missed an opportunity not having anyone to talk to really adjust, and not hide that part of myself and not put myself in prison to be accepted. But I go on, I start to grow up. My very first car, I flip over 8 times at 75 miles an hour. 3 people fly out of the car. Thankfully, everyone survived, but it was pretty nasty. It was definitely an out of body experience. Then there was getting T-boned, and the reason why I'm mentioning this is the healing things after. Um, so then I get T-boned, I get rear-ended. I'm playing sports the whole time, so I'm breaking fingers and toes and everything else. And so by the time I had gotten to, I'm a retail store manager at a video game store. I was a hurting unit. I was waking up like the Tin Man. I'm like, oh, oh, oh. And I was in so much pain and so much um, emotional struggle between, all the unfulfilled, I suppose, characters and roles we're supposed to play. But I was in a lot of darkness at that time. And I was like 35, 38. And I thought, okay, this is my life. It's a life of pain. You're supposed to live this. You're supposed to come last due to the childhood trauma buried in the body and all that stuff. And so I'm scheduled to have a surgery where I'm clearing up my elbow for scar tissue. And at this time, literally my view is and I've never been to church. So my view on God at that time is if there is a God, she does not like me because of what I experienced at 4, all the pain after, not being able to make sense of it, and a lot of things that followed that. So I thought if there was a God, doesn't like me. And so I was resigned to that fact, and it made me very resentful. And I was a cynical person. I didn't like anybody. So there was a lot going on there. So I'm going to work, trying to function. I'm a store manager, salary store manager, so they're working you to the bone. 0 payroll. I'm going to have surgery on my elbow, and I get to the hospital. I sit down in the room kind of before you actually go in, and they hook you up and everything. And I start to feel this panic just build in me. And I never had panic attacks. It was never something I struggled with. It was the strangest thing because I had never felt something that intensely take over me to where I felt like I needed to get up and leave. And I didn't know why. And so I'm feeling this panic rise up and it's becoming me. And I'm like, thinking to myself in my mind, it's an elbow surgery. What's the problem? And it just takes over me. And I go to sit up, and this was 2008. And I go to sit up, and right at that same moment, I go to sit up, I feel this energy start in the center of my chest, and it's warm, and it begins to expand all around me. And I couldn't just feel the energy in me, I could feel the pressure, almost like, the only way I could describe it is like wind, but there's pressure without anybody pressing on you. And I could feel it going all the way around my feet, all the way around my body. And it actually, against my wishes and wanting to get up, it sat me back down. And then that's when this warm love kind of really started to bubble up. And this voice said to me, Stephen, put your head down. Everything's going to be all right. And it was the exact same thing they had said to me at 4, basically. And so that was it. I went, holy crap, it's real. I had finally moved into the real zone. I'm experiencing it awake and alive. I'm not in some other state. It's not a dream. At that moment that I went, holy crap, and I recognized that voice, there was this opening of love in me that I had not felt or remembered since I had been to that place. And it just enveloped me. And it was like hugging every grandmother you ever had from every lifetime you ever had, and father and family. And it was everything in one. And when that happened, it was like somebody hit a tape reel on my mind. Somebody just hit rewind. And I start to see all these images go by. And I start to feel all these energies just start rising up in me. And it was like sadness or this or that, but they were just shooting out of me and I could feel it coming through me. I calmed down. I kind of said to myself, I was in a state of like disbelief and shock. I was like, what the hell is that? What the hell is that? And so I go in and I have the surgery. I come out a few days later. It's like the first after effects of what happened. And that's waking up in the middle of the night by this light in my room. And it's a ball of light and it's over in the corner of the room. And I'm like, is that a light? And I'm going through the motions. I'm going, that's not a lamp. It's not a headlight. It's not this. It's not that. And I'm awake for a while, just watching this thing barely move, but it's solid and it has form. And it's just an orb of light. And eventually go to sleep. Okay, it's just another weird thing, right? I get to work. I'm starting to hear other people speaking in my mind. And now I'm starting to have telepathy. And I figured it out because I was a store manager. I could do whatever I wanted. I would ask people a question in my mind, and then I would ask them out loud and see if they matched. And I would just do exercises with my employees, and they were my guinea pigs. So I would do exercises with them, but that graduated into like having these emotions just overtake me and then pass through me, overtake me and pass through me. So I could be standing in the corner of my store, setting up marketing, and all of a sudden my employee would hear me laughing, and then they would hear me crying, and then they would hear me having another emotion and another, and they're like, what the heck is going on? But I had no control over it. It was like someone else was just shooting these signals through me. And so the telepathy, the feeling of emotions turned into being able to feel where someone has pain, even hunger at certain times when it was really intense. And so I was having a lot of psychic things happen at work that I couldn't explain. Slowly, I began to notice things moving around me. And I'm like, what is that? What is that? And I would see things pass in front of the lamp, pass in front of the light. I started to see these just this little rainbow energy like everywhere I went. But that was the good part. The bad part was I started to see silhouettes and other beings that some were nice, some were not necessarily nice. But it was almost like someone had flicked a light switch on in me and I could now see. And there, this other reality that we all experience was being illuminated. And so I woke up to these beings around me. They were in the humanoid shape. Some were light, some were smoky, some were dark. It was that point where I'm still not knowing where this is coming from. I'm like, is this what's happening to me? So I'm questioning, am I being haunted? What's going on? Am I going crazy? And there was a really wild experience where uh, during that time, I didn't sleep for a while. During self-admittedly, when those apparitions appeared and I had to go to bed and I could see them moving around me, and there was audible communication. So there was one day I'm at work at the video game store. It's a popular one that had a popular stock a few years ago, and then it dropped. But I don't know if I could say the name. But I'm at the store. I go to lunch. I go to the gas station. I'm in line to pay for gas, just a regular day. And there's a man and his son gets out of line and he grabs uh, a candy bar and he holds it up to his dad and he says, "Can I get this?" And the father says, "Sure." He gets back in line. He's holding the candy bar. He looks at it. And then he does the same exact thing. He walks out and he gets out of line and he picks up one candy bar. He didn't have two. He didn't ask for another one. And he goes, "Can I have this?" And the father's like, "Sure." And he gets back in line and he's looking at it. I'm like, what the hell just happened? Because it wasn't deja vu. Like, oh, I'd been here before. No, I was in it, experiencing it. And so I'm replaying that a little bit in my mind as I walk out and I walk to the car and I start the car and the radio was on and it was some woman and they were laughing and she had just won a contest. They're talking about the answer. 2 seconds later, the phone starts ringing on the radio and it's the woman, literally within seconds. And it's the woman and they're asking her the question, but I knew the answer because I had just heard it. And that was the day I'm like, I think I have to check myself in somewhere. I was like experiencing those energy shifts, the telepathy, those apparitions. And slowly they were becoming audible because I was saying, what are you? What are you doing here? Leave me alone. I don't want you here. Naturally, like anybody would say, they started to basically tell me I was worthless. I wasn't going to be anything. I was never going to be successful. And all these things that later I realized I was saying to myself growing up. And so there was a big fundamental trauma thing there. So I'm going through, kind of losing some sleep, wondering what these are, trying to shut things out. I'm I'm begging God where this is coming from, and I was never a religious man, but I put myself down, kneeled down, went and got a cross because of everything that was going on, knelt down at the cross, and just said, "Show what's going on." I surrender everything. What's going on? Because I was losing my mind. I was losing my family. They thought I was crazy. My partner thought I was crazy. Um, and so there was a lot going on. And so as I said that, I was overcome with this vision of walking on this road, and it was a sandy road, and I could see the glint of light on every pebble of sand. It was phenomenally vibrant. And so I'm having this vision and I'm looking out my eyes and I could see my feet walking. I'm wearing sandals. I'm wearing a brown tunic and I'm walking on this sandy road and I look over to my left and there's two rivers and I look over to my right and there's a river and they meet in the middle and the vision ends. And I'm like, well, thanks. I'm there crying, literally crying. And I'm like, well, thanks. That really helps me. And then I get the feeling, okay, look it up. And I looked it up, and it was some biblical location at some time. And so that made me feel a bit better. And I was starting to feel and know that we were in kind of like the war in heaven was taking place for my energy and my heart. And I was understanding that. And so I was trying to go to these, I would go after work, I would go to these churches and I would try to talk to people. It didn't matter what church. Most of them didn't have the understanding of that there's beings out there that harvest our energy and they want to warp our sense of identity so they can have a human experience. And so I was waking up to feeling that sense of violation in my system, but I was also seeing it. So not many answers at church, a lot of tears. Left there, I was still trying to function and be a normal person. And that's when I have probably one of the most profound experiences, because again, I wasn't religious. I had not heard these words ever. And so I'm driving, I'm beating myself up, all my failures and et cetera, et cetera. And this voice comes in and it's off to my right. And it's very different than any other voice I had ever heard. And I note that it's not wispy, it's not iffy, it's not something I needed to listen to hard. It was clear. It was crystal clear. And it starts telling me all the beautiful things I'd done for people, all the people that loved me and all the people that thought about me. And I'm like, whoa, that was very different to hear from what I had heard my whole life. And then what I was hearing supernaturally that I was going through for a few months. So this voice starts telling me all these beautiful things about me. And my question is, who are you? And then the voice says, I am. And then me, okay, who are you? And then the voice says, I am. And then I say, I heard you the first time. I am who? And I start to become a little irritated with God. And I say, I am who? And then the voice says, a third time, I am. And then that was it. Something happened to me. It was it was like a reflex. And because I didn't think about anything, it was just like a reflex. I just instantly began to bawl, the hardest I'd ever cried in my life. And every single memory that I ever experienced, every memory I had ever experienced, along with every emotion that I've ever felt, instantly came rushing out of me at the same time, but separately. It was happening at the same time, but I could feel it separately. And that's the only way I can describe it. And I had to pull the car over because I was driving at that moment. And I bawled and I bawled and I bawled. And then I went home and I looked up the phrase and I found out, okay, there's something here. And there was just these moments of synchronicity continuously where I couldn't explain how I had been in that certain location or why. It was like there was another energy guiding me. And there was a day I got out of work. I drove to a river. I knew for some reason I had to drive to this river. And I'm like, okay, I went into nature as a kid. Cool. I do it a lot more now, but I wasn't doing it for a while. So I drove to this river and I sat down and I'm like, well, I'm here, God. I know you want me here for some reason. Why? And that was our relationship, by the way. And so I'm like, why? Why am I here? And no answer. I go back to my car eventually after sitting there looking like a dummy for a little bit. I start the car, and again, the radio's on. So I'm not choosing what song is on. And I'm mostly, as I'm sitting there, I'm like, why do you have me here? What am I here for? And so as I start the car, when I get back to the car, the song playing and the very first line that comes out is going down to the river to pray AA. Get washed by the water, going down to the river to pray. And I'm like, son of a bitch. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but that was my mind at the moment. I said, you just answered me through the friggin' radio, which means now I have to listen to everything. Now you could be answering me through the TV and through this and through that. And it was getting to be so big to where I couldn't avoid it. And it was pushing into my normal life. As much as I reluctantly tried to say, I want to live normally. I don't want to experience this. Please, thank you, leave me alone. because I was trying to hold my family together and all that, and a job and whatever else. And so that didn't happen. What happened was uh, I started to have extraterrestrial communication. Uh, that probably, I would say, maybe a year or two after it was really all about God and someone turning on this light switch in me, uh, and this thirst just appearing. Uh, so it was about God and angels and all those synchronicities for a while. And then, naturally I look crazy enough there, forget about the aliens. So I'm bringing home books about the Bible, books about this, and books about this. And mind you, I was a video game store manager. I suddenly stopped playing all video games. I stopped doing everything I'm doing. My family wants me to go see a shrink, but I know something is happening. So I'm bringing books home. I'm still having these apparitions around me that I don't really like. It's starting to get so invasive that I would lay down and I would feel the side of my head start to pressurize and literally spasm as they were communicating with me, and I couldn't shut it off. I didn't have a choice. I would lay down and I would have to deal with it every night. And so that's when um, I have these beings show up, and I'm sitting there eating a bowl of Cheerios, which I've probably done 5 times in my life. But you'll see why that's interesting. But I'm sitting there eating a bowl of Cheerios, minding my own business, and I feel this energy just enter my room, and you could feel the pressure, you could feel everything change, and I could see that it's kind of that rainbowy color, and that's when these beings say, we're from the Galactic Federation of Light. We are the Divine Council of Nine, of which you are a part of, and we're here to help you with your ascension because you're going to help humanity in the next stage of its evolution of its species, and something to that effect. And that you're in charge of a grid that's responsible for upgrading human consciousness for this next stage of evolution. And they showed me like a vision of the picture of this grid that I was supposedly maintaining the resonance for. And so they said this to me, and I went, you definitely have the wrong guy. I'm pretty sure, pretty positive that you have the wrong person. And that was my answer to them. And I was very skeptical. I was very hesitant. I was very, what trick is this next? Because I mean, there were so many tricks going on in my mind from these apparitions speaking to me constantly that I had to really center myself. And so I thought it was a trick. I thought it was baloney. And I pulled out my phone and I started to look things up. And I'm like, maybe there's something to this. Maybe I should listen the next time. And so they didn't appear or show up again and speak to me until the next time I was eating a bowl of Cheerios. And those were the only 2 times they did it, but the first 2 times, that's how it happened. And I don't know what relevancy it had, maybe to make it memorable. I don't know. But the next time they showed up, they began speaking to me about these apparitions that I was experiencing. And they said, basically on the apparitions, that reality was happening through me. It wasn't happening to me. And that I was projecting these from the traumatic aspects of my personality, basically, that I had been fractured. And I was getting a bird's eye view of the fractured versions of myself. Also mixed in there, I was able to see to like entities. There were human spirits there that I eventually helped, but it was all new to me. I was never a medium. I was never this. I was never this. I was never this. I was a retail store manager. That was it. As far as I knew, what happened to me at 4, I was over and done with. And I tried to live normally. So they start speaking to me that I'm a divine instrument, that I am out of tune, and that I need to tune my divine instrument because I was creating too much distortion. And so they guided me by speaking to me about the triangle that I had seen during my my NDE. They said this triangle, this is also heaven, earth, and the sun. This is your mind, heart, and body. This is a circuit that you need to complete. And they started giving me a script and literally showing me how to do that, how to bring an energy down, connect it to my heart, bring an energy from below, and really restore that life force energy. And so that's when they begin teaching me how to reprogram my subconscious. They also mentioned the divine blueprint that I had saw. They said this is an image that you have in your subconscious of yourself when you were whole. It's not the image of you out there in the minds of others that are fractured, that you need approval from. This is a whole image in your subconscious that's there so you can unionize the polarity in your body, your higher self, your lower self, the resistance. And so they basically told me you need to start seeing yourself as the image of God you were made in, as your divine blueprint, and stop worrying about the other images and labels that are coming into your mind from other people's and the judgment from yourself. It's an unsubscribe and a subscribe thing. And so I really buckled down with that for a while. They were teaching me how to purify and really transmute energies. For a while, they were very watchful of what I created in my mind and my heart, that I did not store it in my body and that I did not project it out to other people, that I surrendered it to this Christ within me. And that's where we get into some of the quantum physics of it, a triangle singularity. It's a union. There's a neutral position there between positive and negative. And when we unify these currents and they become one, we're in a direct current, with creator. And so they were teaching me a bit about the quantum physics. They were teaching me how to reprogram cellular memory through knowing and gnosis, and how to communicate with the body as if something's already been finished, how to reroute and rewire the signals of pain occurring in my body, and to rewire myself from a survival mechanism to one where I can thrive in as a cultivator of energy. And so the more they visited me, the more I felt love. I felt like I was home. I felt like every part of me was accepted. I didn't need to hide. I started to feel the love of heaven again. And then that's when they, reminded me that you don't need to die to go back to heaven. You can go there now while you're alive in your body. And so they'd visit. I would have no pain at all. I'd be in that beautiful space. They would leave. I'd be human for a bit. And I'd be a little angry. And I'd be like, man, I got pain again. And I got this and I got this. But it was for me to figure out. And they were giving me the formula of no longer storing my emotions in my body, but processing them in real time. But also what that meant for my perception of linear time, past, present, and future becoming one, because it's the mind's perception through the storage of trauma. And so they were coming back, teaching me how to heal myself using the recognition of my divine blueprint and becoming that as my identity rather than what I'm doing, my name, the roles I'm playing. At the end of the day, I'm energy. And I want to be able to recognize myself as a whole image. That's going to give me more freedom to move around in my nervous system. And so as they visited me more, they would give me things like, you are a computer. Your subconscious is the hard drive. Your conscious mind is the operating system, and you're running some programs that you need to uninstall, and you're going to reinstall new programs. And then they would instruct me, speak to it, do this, acknowledge it with love, acknowledge it with truth. And they were teaching me how to literally move the traumatic cellular memory out of my body in a way that I could integrate it and accept it. So there was a love and a truth factor. They were reconnecting me with the Trinity. And that's when they said, and when I said that it was like a light switch flicked on, it was like I could see, and it was disturbing, but it was like I had a nuclear reactor in my stomach. It was like being a kid on Christmas and you can't go to sleep, but times 1,000. And there was just suddenly, after this voice spoke to me, so much energy in me. And then that's when they told me you have a sun in the center of your heart space, that it's a torus field. And I didn't know anything about neuroscience or fields or anything, that this is a torus field, but it's also very similar to a black hole, that it can collapse and unify fields of perception. In other words, I can get out of all these illusions that I had created in my mind by grounding them into this space and reprogramming my subconscious to do that. And so they were teaching me to wake up in the morning, reprogram my subconscious, realign my identity, how to modulate my reality throughout the day as the watcher of my experience. They were continuously speaking to me that you're the one feeling this, you're not the feeling itself. Acknowledge it with love, allow it to move through you, things like that. Then I was starting to have, for a while, these intense dreams of being on the ships, being in a white suit. I was entirely bald. Very first dream, it was in a medical bay, and I started out there, and they had to do a procedure on me before I could walk through the rest of the ship. Everything was white and smooth. And then I would wake up covered in sweat, drenched, only when I would be in those dreams, those lucid dreams where you know you're there. And so I would have those dreams. They'd be spaced apart. I'd be in one part of the ship 1 week, like maybe a month later, I'd have another one, and I'd be in another part. And then it was like a few weeks after I started to have those dreams, I'm sitting out in my yard, and all of a sudden I'm just lifted up out of my body. Again, no pain. I couldn't feel the chair anymore. I'm in this white light, and these beings speak to me. They tell me that I'm a character logged into an experience I'm an energy that logged into this experience to play this character, and that I'm eternal, and basically that me was inside a system a lot like a video game, and that it was a sacred experience. They were teaching me. They said your body is like a battery, where it has salt and potassium, and you store charge in your cells, negative and positive. However, when you're storing too much emotions and too much trauma, this causes a short circuit because the polarity goes out of balance, and then you begin to create feedback, which is known as duality. And so they're teaching me about duality and non-duality. They just visit me time and again. And when I went back into my body, I was like, son of a, because I could feel the pain return to my body. And that's when I started to make it my personal mission. I'm like, I'm getting back to heaven. I don't care. Nobody's going to stop me. I'm going back to that place where I feel no pain. And so I started to be the watcher of where I placed my thoughts and my energy and the effect it had on my body. And so all these visitations and there's more started to change me energetically. And I could feel tone and frequency just going up and down through me. They in their visitations informed me that you are energy, having a material experience, playing this character, but that you're life force energy, and you're flowing like a circuit, and that I needed to expand my bandwidth, that I needed to expand my identity and how I saw myself, and unify these two opposites within me. And this would basically, as they were speaking, free me from the matrix. Okay. They spoke about other things, like an event coming up with the sun that's going to change humanity. They talked about, and this was in, I would say 2010-ish, and my ex thought I was nuts. So I tried to talk to her a little bit about it, but they said the world was going to change. This was before the pandemic and the elections and all that. They said there's going to be a lot of chaos. There's going to be people kind of turning against each other. It's going to seem like it's something that's bad, but it's a purification that has to happen before humanity can be upgraded into like a 2.0, where we no longer have to store our experiences in the body and learn the hard way. It's going to become more intuitive and more flowing of a process where we intuitively learn from the data and information we create rather than having to manifest it into our physical reality. And so they were talking about some of the changes. They said there'd be natural disasters. And I went and got water, I went and got dry food, and my family's like, what the heck are you doing? And so I felt better having it, knowing if we lose systems, banking, or whatever it may be, I'm kind of good for a little bit. So it was in a non-fearful way, but it was the evolution of humanity, and a unification is coming. And the more we resist letting go of the energies that don't serve us and what is not love, the more we're going to feel the suffering of it, or the birth pains, if you will. So they spoke about that and a solar flash coming, and as they spoke more to me about the sun, I was meditating in the sun. I would start to feel, and I would know when there were geomagnetic conditions occurring, coming through me. And the more I understood that I was to pick and choose these energies coming through me to paint with my reality and render my reality, the more free will I began to experience. And I understood it was an experience about free will, and that I was here to have a love story with creation itself, that it wasn't really about the characters, because since they were creator too. And so moment to moment, I'm having a love story with creation. And so a lot of this is unfolding and occurring, and still working at the video game store. One day, this woman, and I'm trying to hold the scene, like, just do my job, not be too crazy, leave my job. So this elderly woman falls down out in front of my store, and I see her. She hits the cement. It's a parking lot. She's in a lot of pain. I'm the first one to see her because it's right in front of me. I go out there. She's groaning. She's in real pain. And I put my hand on her, and someone else came out from the bread company next door. And I said, go call the EMTs. And I stayed with her. And it wasn't really in my personality for a long time to do that, but I don't know why, but I put my hand on her and just telling her, you're going to be all right. And all of a sudden she turned to me and she looked at me and she goes, I'm all warm and I have no pain. And I went, holy crap. And I felt like the warmth go up my arm. A few minutes later, the EMTs came, she left, and I went back to work, and I just couldn't stop thinking about it. Couldn't stop thinking about it. And that's when I looked up, oh, hands healing. And I started to, okay, maybe this is a real thing. So I was highly reluctant and the skeptic that needed to hear things again and again and again, feel it, experience it before I even believed it. So yeah, I experienced that firsthand, and then began to experience other people have things happen around me, where they would, just give up their glasses or whatever, just strange things. I had this pain and, I feel better. And I would have people who were sent to me like, oh, so-and-so is a friend. And they said, you might be able to help me, using some of what you learned about polarity and our identity and some of the things you've seen. You might be able to help me correct my nervous system and ground it into coherence, rather than distortion. And so slowly I started helping people. I didn't even have the idea to do it as a living. I was doing my job, helping people. Eventually I had to leave that job. I landed in senior care, Alzheimer's and dementia, for about 6 years. And it was the most beautiful, eye-opening experience I ever could have had in my life. There was epiphany after epiphany and interaction with God through all these characters, or my creator. Because when I realized, wait a minute, I see you in there, I see you in there, I see you in there, and I was looking through the eyes and interacting in this play or this virtual reality with my creator to learn about love and free will and to have this experience in a body, it became the most beautiful thing ever. And then I realized they were all God. And every single one of them, no matter how they appeared, what ailments they had, what they had going on, it was my job to show up as love. And that was my only job. And then I also realized basically I was wiping the butt of God. And I had that deeply seated in my mind where if I don't care for these people tenderly and lovingly and compassionately to the T, that it says something about, and it's going to affect my relationship with this intelligent energy that I was beginning to feel and interact with. And so from senior care, I would go to work and I would get out and I start to feel called into nature. And I'm still having communication with these beings, but like they would lay off for a little bit and they would let me just kind of integrate, I suppose. And then they would give me a buttload of information and then they would let me integrate. And I was going into nature, and always used to love fishing and nature and stuff. I didn't realize how much it helped me regulate my nervous system when I was a kid. So I just started going there because I felt called to. And one day I'm just there and I'm breathing. And I could feel this energy, this line of energy just go up and go down, go up and go down. I could feel it in there behind me. And that's the only way I can describe it. There was something else in there. I'm like, you're the one that's been guiding me. Like I'm trying to, give some sort of identity, which is the human mind, right? So this energy's coming up and going down, coming up and going down. And then that's when my guides are like, speak to it. And like, everything they say is so simple. And I got to say, it's a divine comedy. It's like they're sitting there watching me go through stuff. And then they're like, speak to it, do this, do that. And they're just giving you that kind of almost like family, like comedic direction. Like, we're in this with you, we're laughing with you. And so the energy comes up and it goes down. And they're like, thank it, speak to it, say thank you. And I went, thank you. And it was like, whoosh, this huge energy rose up in me. And then they're like, you're unifying heaven and earth in your body. You're unifying both parts of yourself, mind.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's
Yeah,
still
let's stay
on.
muted. Yeah, let's stay muted, please. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, okay. And so that's when they're guiding me. This is magnetic. You would say negative polarity. I don't like the word negative because it gives it a bad connotation. But they're like, this is earth, this is magnetic energy, this is electric, this is coming down, your thought coming down from heaven. And they connect and they begin to spin. And they're going to start turning the torus field in your heart. And that field is going to magnetize and reverse the polarity in your body. And so this is some of the stuff they're giving me. I'm researching some of it. What is happening to me? That's it. What is happening to me? Because I can feel the changes as this stuff occurs. And I start to go deep into the neuroscience that we're gathering energy in our body and we're creating action potentials that causes the cell membrane to open and release negative charge. And so I'm starting to see I'm interfacing with reality as energy using kind of like this material battery in a way. And I became very adamant about being a sovereign being because of what I experienced. And so slowly I learned, okay, all I need to do is modulate you with truth. And then you're gone out of my system. All these other voices and these things that were going on that I mistook for some kind of haunting, when really I was waking up to what I had projected behind the scenes that was creating my reality. And so I became very stubborn. I became very adamant to not let any other energy design my reality for me. And in order to do that, I had to make it so I was the only one who got to think and feel how I wanted to think and feel. And I no longer allowed the environment to do that. And the more I began to believe that I was my divine blueprint, interacting with reality, the easier it became to see the things that were coming from my identity that wanted to separate me from love, from peace. And that became my adversary. No matter where I was, if it's in me, if it sounds like me, if it looks like me, it did not matter. If it was fear, worry, stress, anxiety, and it was coming to separate me from my identity, they began instructing me to acknowledge it and reroute it into the Christ or my heart space so that it doesn't separate me. And so I was slowly learning how to interface as my whole self and keep me whole and sustain that whole image as I'm interacting with reality. And, you know, just attacking things like I became curious about, why do I think the way I think? Why do humans have to look at other humans' butts? Why do I have to take a drink? Why do I have to do this? I became very curious about the impulse and who was really in control if I could not say no. And so there was a fox in the hen house, so to speak. And that fox was me. I had given over so much of my identity for approval and validation. I was in bondage through my identity. And so there was a singularity happening. And some people speak about singularity like it has to do with AI. No, there was a singularity happening in my heart that was the Christ awakening in me and unifying really both parts of me. And when that began to happen, when I began to be able to say I love you to that tree and understand this loving relationship moment to moment, and I felt energy come back, and I do it every day. It comes back to me and it goes whoosh, basically telling me I love you too. When I found that, then I was free. But they came back, you know, quite a bit. They talked about extraterrestrials that are good and bad, and some that harvest our energy through thought manipulation or fear or things like that. And they help me really re-identify as someone who feels the emotional scale but is not the emotional scale, someone who feels my emotions but I'm not the emotions. My only job is to not allow them to become me, but still allow myself to feel them with non-attachment. And so there was a process of purification. And some of the weirder stuff was like, my ex thought I was nuts. I would turn on the hot water, fill up the bathtub, and I'd be like, go in the bathtub. And I'd be like, are you sure? When I first started doing this. And I went in and it was hot because I didn't put any cold water in there. And then they're like, start telling your body you're not hot. Tell it it's just a signal. Your body's just telling you that you're hot. And so the more I did this, the more I was able to train my will, the more I was able to not attach my energy to things that weren't good for me. And the more I was able to move pain out of my body. And they began to instruct me, speak to the pain that's in your foot, speak to the pain that's in your knee. Tell it you love it, say thank you for what you're teaching me, and then remind it that you are already whole and that this is a holy space. And if it wants to stay here, it needs to move through your heart. And so they were giving me a lot of diagrams and visions of the nervous system in survival mode, where it's compartmentalizing energies, and the nervous system wired to basically hold your higher self, which is a brain heart body signal versus brain body is the normal survival signal where we bypass the heart. And so I became very interested. Anything I was feeling that was brain to body signal without my consent, you were getting spoken to and grounded, and I was going to push until I could reverse the polarity in my body. And, you know, they would instruct me. It's a lot like magnets when the magnets stick together, but then you flip one over and it pushes the other energy. So you're dealing with positive and negative polarity. So they were teaching me through that process how to heal my body, how to give my energy and identity space to heal, because I had subscribed to so many fractured versions of myself. I had to have this journey between me and creator. And so as they're teaching me this, they're like, you know, giving me other things. Normally, most people, well, I'll tell you this, everybody's bipolar because they have two polarities, but not everybody can control the drift between the polarity. And so they began to kind of come back and teach me that most people are inhabiting an alternating current, where it's going to alternate. And that this stage of humanity is helping them become more wired into a direct current, where they're no longer going to be separated from their source, from love, from peace. It's going to be a lot harder for this other stuff to get their identity. And so I began to look at it, and still do kind of, as I also had these memories of logging in. Sounds crazy, but during the extraterrestrial stuff, and again, I didn't believe it. Looked it up on my phone and I said, crap, maybe it's real. And so became a believer through experiencing it. And so there was, what was like, not sure where I was going, but I had something. Yeah, the extraterrestrial stuff. Okay, logging in. So I would have these dreams and these memories, and they would come and come and come until I looked at it and felt it, until I started to be like, okay, maybe that's real. And so it was standing at a console with these other light beings, no robes, like the being in my experience. But I'm having these memories, these vivid memories, as well as dreams of standing with these light beings at consoles, programming some type of parameters, some type of quantum leap. And then whoosh, I'm logging in. I literally logged into the experience. And something else about like the Christ that they taught me was that everything I already needed to do was finished. Everything was already there, set in quantum superposition, but what reality I experience is going to depend on my frequency and the love that I embody. So if I want to experience my highest beautiful version of reality, I want to embody that Christ itself, because I need to have the right energy to manifest it and to maintain it. Otherwise, my quantum leap into this other version of reality, it's going to fizzle out. I'm not going to have fuel in a rocket. And so I began to understand to be thankful for where I was, no matter what I was doing, sweeping the floor, cleaning the sink, et cetera, to have love for even being able to get to do it. And so the deeper I got into that pursuit of the Christ within me, never being religious, just that feeling of this love that accepted me, I can listen to all religions. I can feel tone, frequency, love. I know what that's like. Fine, I'll listen. And that's my God. Anything that's not that is not my God. And so I became kind of very aware of the inputs and the outputs. What type of energies, just like spam email, needed to be clicked on and moved here, and what energies I would allow to go through my nervous system. I became the gatekeeper or the modulator of the signals coming through me, withstanding against them, using the identity already given to me. And so reality becomes very different when I wake up every morning and I tell my nervous system, I'm already loved, I'm already whole, I'm already validated, and I'm already forgiven. Now, later in the day, when I question myself, you betcha this other me is going to remind me of that. And so there was a period where I was working on just aligning that conscious and subconscious, conscious and subconscious, and slowly becoming aware of the wounded inner child that I had neglected for so long, that needed love, and that there were aspects of me caught in the system, repeating feedback loops to reconfigure data because they wanted to finish their circuit and they never got to finish. They were wounded, stopped, whatever, interrupted. And so there was a multi-dimensional picture revealing itself of all these me's that were now becoming one and singular through work with this Trinity, through the realignment between mind, heart, and body, allowing and surrendering anything that was not love, instead of holding it in the body. So that it in itself erased me repeating the past. I no longer had to carry the past with me because it didn't exist. And so there was a lot going on there. Eventually, my family did leave. I wound up breaking up with them and got to this point where I'm just like, okay, 7 or 8 years, I'm going to love Creator. I'm not going to think about anything else. And slowly grew to where I was helping people and being a speaker here and a speaker there. But still, again, I'm just me. And so there were clients that would come to me. I have a child in the hospital in Canada, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm going to try. Let's see if I can try. and they began to instruct me that I could connect through this field that I had been seeing and experiencing to this child, and to give them a knowing. And they taught me how to work with the knowing, or truth as a signal, sensation, and energy, and to broadcast certain energies that would quantum entangle with this other person's energy field and begin to cause them to vibrate high enough to release blockages and things like that. So I saw kids come off of ventilators, their lungs inflate, and the parents are like, they send me Christmas cards and everything. And I'm just like, wow, I get to sit here and feel this and experience this. And there's been so many since, like people have come to me with entities, haunted houses, to the sprained ankle, to I'm having surgery. And I firmly believe that I am not special, that we are all in the same system, that we can all heal ourselves and heal each other if we stop surrendering our identity, and if we just begin to acknowledge that inner child as sacred and loved, and this energy that we normally push away and don't want to feel. If we can begin to tell this energy that you're purposeful, you do have meaning, and you are validated, and I love you, that other us will stop staying out in that other field for so long. But yeah, I firmly believe we're all equal fractals of creator experiencing a unique experience, that I am that triangle. I'm the triangle on the Pink Floyd t-shirt. The energy is coming through me, and how it comes out to me and how it's modulated is like up to me. It's like I can throw the salt in or not,
Thank
Yeah,
you so much. I just want, is it all right if I ask you a couple?
absolutely. Yeah, I had talked long
I'm gonna
enough.
come in. I'm gonna come in now. Wow. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And there's so much to it. The biggest takeaway for me is really about the self-healing, about healing ourself, right? So that we can then be um, a channel for God, for divinity to come through us, right? Because I think, we all struggle with those inner voices sometimes, those negative loops that come in, or things that happen in our life that maybe trigger things from our past, and then it's in our face again, right? So I'm just curious about what can you tell us, or what can we do to become more in alignment with our own higher self and our own divine path. And, so say you're waking up in the morning, right? I heard you talk about gratitude, right?
Mhm.
And that's a big thing, right? Talking about,
Yeah.
what we're grateful
And
for.
I'm not looking at it as woo-woo. I'm looking at it as like I plug my phone in. My phone is a device of storage. My body is a storage device as well. And so it needs to get plugged in
Yeah.
to a higher version of myself so that I can navigate a bit easier in my nervous system without hitting these roadblocks that say, you're this, you're this, you're this.
hmm So in the morning, is that a really powerful time for people, would you say, to really plug into that?
Sure, there's a window there.
Yeah,
And
the
I've
first
heard other
thoughts we
people
have.
say this.
Yeah. The first thoughts that we have in the morning can set us up for the day, right? So
Yeah.
even if we're waking up and because I find with myself, I wake up in the morning and the first thing I'm thinking is, oh my God, I'm back here.
I'm on Earth.
I'm back in my body. Oh.
Yeah.
And then, but then I shift into, I talk to God and I have,
Yeah.
experiences in the morning.
Because like I'm the energy. Okay, if anybody's ever been a kid and they've rubbed their feet on the carpet a bunch and then they shocked someone, that's it. Like when I wake up, I'm the cultivator. I'm like cultivating, 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 because I want to kind of have my identity residing more up in my heart and more open, rather than if I didn't do anything, I'm down in my belly. Things are a little different down there.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So starting the day with some gratitude, connecting with God, that's
Mhm.
an important
And
thing.
genuinely being the watcher of when you're genuine about the gratitude and when you're not, because that's the magic recipe I find. There's no loaded gun, whatever reference you want to say. I don't have any ammunition if I don't have an honesty behind it. And so when I honestly say thank you to that tree, man, I love you. You're awesome. I can feel its energy climb up into me. And now we're sharing a circuit. And so I look at everything as kind of like circuit. But yes, it's the cultivate, solidify identity. Cultivate, solidify identity. Cultivate, solidify the identity that's been given to me already. Now you betcha I'm looking for energy a lot less through the emotions of others. I have a lot less entanglements. My nervous system is a bit more free because I already know that I am. But it's a little bit of an art to wake up in the morning and know how to speak to your body as if something already is. But I find it's easier to get around the logic mind if you say, thank you to Creator for already forgiving me. Thank you for already. The body's going to go, oh, something already happened? Oh, okay. It's not going to fight that too much as if I were to deliver a different way. But yes, it's programming. And then you move throughout the day, simply just what can I modulate into feeling good? Thoughts, emotions. I genuinely say thank you for what you're teaching me because that stops it right away. I don't want it compressing or shrinking me. I want to be expanded and open. And so I acknowledge them right away. And I say, you can move into the heart space with gratitude. You can teach me intuitively. A lot of these fear, worry, stress, anxiety, they're equations, they're teachers, but we can't solve it intellectually. The equation's too big. It has to be heart, mind, heart together. So morning, syncing up my mind and my heart, instilling that I am my divine blueprint, modulating what I can throughout the day, where I attach to my emotions. End of the day, I generally speak to everything that's not love. If I had a pain here, toxic family situation, they've taught me to acknowledge it in the field first. And that became so much more real to me. The heaven that I went to, the field, that's the real world. This is the experience I logged into.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Also, one more big thing, take your opinion out of it. You had a story. It doesn't need your opinion. It's just energy and data. And you can heal so much easier when you just watch your opinion about it. Say, I'm just going to acknowledge you. I don't need to have an opinion about the story.
Mm-hmm. Right. Because when you have an opinion about it, then you're feeding into it. Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're playing along with the story then. All right. I'm going to see if anybody has any questions. All right. Let me bring Edna in. Come on in, Edna. Hello.
Hi. Hi, Stephen.
Hello.
Thank you for sharing. That was amazing. And my question to you is, do you think you could possibly, or maybe you did, write a book to kind of put everything that you just said down to give everybody like more of a step-by-step process on how to deal with all the different things that we're dealing with on a
I'm definitely putting in that manual on how to be an energy playing human. It's in the works now. I did write a small chapter in a book, but it was kind of like a joint thing. And so I'm the reluctant healer. I'm like the guy who said, leave me alone to these beings until they just invade. But I'm working on it now. So it is in the works.
That would be great.
But
Okay.
if you ever wanted to join a group, like I do groups every month, my website is trinityquantumhealth.com. I let anybody join the group. So like if somebody had a person who couldn't afford it, I try to run a group every month so that we can kind of meet and go over some things that help us all, I think, navigate this reality.
Nice.
Oh, okay. And this is probably off topic, but what did the tattoos on your hand, what meaning do they have?
Oh, those are another story altogether. In the beginning, I couldn't avoid angels. I cannot tell you, I would turn and a name would be there. I would go to somebody's house and they'd be talking about it. I'd overhear somebody talking about it. It would come through the radio, come through the TV. Couldn't get away from them. It would be the names of angels, or it would be just angels as a group, choir, cherubim. It would be Jesus. And so it brought me comfort, but it was weird. And so in the beginning, I'm driving and I'm having these visions of this script all over my hands. And I'd be driving, I'd see my hands. It would be, naturally, I don't have any tattoos on my hands. I'd be driving without it. all of a sudden it's like I got them and they're there, and then they'd go away, and then they'd be there and they'd go away. And it repeated and repeated and repeated until I recognized what it was. And it was Enochian writing the names of the 7 archangels. So I slowly learned that I was communicating with them and they were speaking to me. And when I asked, because I repeatedly asked, who are these beings? What are they? Trying to figure out what's going on. Elohim was the word that came to me. And I didn't know what it was. I had to go look it up. Elohim. And so during that time, I'm having these visions. I just happened upon, whether it was a book or something I was looking at, I'm like, holy crap, that's it. I recognized it right away. That's what's showing up on my hands. I went to a tattoo place to get the tattoo. The first one was Michael. And right when he finished and he said, okay, I'm done, and he lifted the needle, all the power in the building shut off. Everything shut down. Okay, coincidence, right? I'm a skeptic again. I'm a skeptic. Coincidence, whatever. Power comes back on. I go back and I get, another one. And they got the radio on this time, getting a tattoo. He goes, okay, I'm finished. And this is the radio. It's not a tape. It's not a CD. The radio goes screech, and all the electricity in the building shut off again. And so that guy was a little weirded out. He's like, I don't know if I want to do the next one on you, because I was planning on getting 7. But he was kind of, I think, curious mildly about it, but maybe a little apprehensive. So I go back for the next one, and his wife is there, and he's doing the tattoo, and he finishes, and he picks up the needle, and he goes, I'm finished. And his wife was standing in the doorway, and she goes like this, and I just see her eyes fill with tears, and she runs out of the building, and and he's like, what was that all about? Like, I don't know. She comes back, and she was obviously crying, and she goes, I don't know what just happened to me, but everything is brighter and more clear, and all the colors I can see all the colors. And I'm like, I don't know, you got me. But I knew there was some opening of some frequency or something occurring there. But that was the story about those.
Thank
And
you.
all I said to God was, I hope I don't ever need a normal job again. Literally, hope I don't ever need a normal job.
Thank you.
Thanks, Edna. All right. So, anybody else have any questions? So, Lynn.
I just wanted to thank you so much. Yeah, it was every time I hear you speak of your story, and this time it's like all a whole brand new story to me, because the first time was in the meeting and I had the plane to catch and I wanted to be there, and I was just like halfway. This is fantastic. It was so lovely. But I just wanted to say I've never ever heard the expression, and that touched me for the first time, where you said you were aligning the 3 points, and it came from above and from below, and there was a torus going on, and it just dissipated all the negative ions in your body. And I just thought to myself, that is the most beautiful expression of what I need to be doing all the time.
And there was talk about, they taught me how to create a 0-point field. So there was a lot of talk about 0-point energy
Yes.
being the
yes.
bridge, and me claiming that for myself through the Christ. I want my 0-point energy, through the Christ. I want to embody it. And so there was a lot of working with that energy to collapse the fields where my energy had been tied in so many places. I realized that I'm never going to go back to everyone I ever hurt and get forgiveness. But I want it to. I'm at that stage in my life where I just want to feel more peace and love. And the only place I could go was to that center where I knew they were all connected. And so I began to speak to people, not directly, but like, thank you to everyone I ever shared time with. I give you love and forgiveness, maybe some directly. And this began to lift the emotional charge from me. And that's when I became a firm believer in go to the field, generate, cultivate, pump it up. Like I knew that I no longer wanted to store my trauma in my body because it was altering my perception of myself and reality. And I knew I no longer wanted to project it out into the material world because I had seen the results of that. So I had to do something with it. And that was modulated into coherent data. And I could only do it there. You know, so I'm the energy of love, modulating my human experience, you know.
It's a privilege to know you. It is an honor to know you. And Stephen is actually going to visit Dad in 2 days, so I'm excited about that.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, because I just wanted to try and another just I have to go for at 9 o'clock, so I just joined in right now because there's something. But you're as a child educator, I love children, and the children are the most authentic. They're just pure to the core. And when you started telling me the story, I was just imagining you as a 4-year-old and trying to ask and no one and
Dude,
trying to tell.
there was no therapy, there was no nothing, man. There was just
Yeah, yeah,
PTSD.
yeah.
But
No,
that was
I
us.
can
You
just,
know, that was the
yeah,
day.
yeah. That was like intensive learning for you. That was your PhD
Yeah,
course.
and I'm so thankful for it. So thankful.
Yeah, yeah,
Even, you know, that the childhood trauma, mother wound, like all that stuff gave me such a capacity to feel,
yeah.
you know.
Definitely. Even for me in this time when I know what I know, and on a daily basis my family still triggers me. you know
Hmm.
it's your loved ones that trigger you. Just
Yep.
strangers, it's okay, they could say whatever and you just think, okay, they don't know, that's okay. Well, you share what you can and you let it go. It's
Well,
those who are
they have the
closest.
deeper access to your system vulnerabilities, you know.
Yeah. Yes. And the stories they hold are so true and so solid, and it's their whole identity. Anything other than that is just, it makes, I guess to them it's like their whole life crumbling and they can't have that. It's their self-preservation, or it's just existential threat in their mind.
Yeah.
And so when I'm listening to you, it's really healing for me because I'm
Well, it
trying
was
to remind
important
you.
after these beings returned that I had my experience, regardless of what you thought, whether you were born to me or not.
Yeah.
Everyone's my family on earth. That doesn't make
Yes.
you special to me. What makes you special to me is that you unconditionally love me. That
Yeah.
makes you family. And so I got into that. Family isn't just about blood. You know, it doesn't
Yes.
start there, but it doesn't end there either. And it was difficult to say this is the journey I'm going to have. And uh, forget you guys. If you love me, I don't, that's fine. We can, you know, mingle. If you don't love me, then you're going away. It's going to be a natural occurrence where we tune into this and create this other new earth reality. And it's going to be a choice if people want to come along. I'm not dragging you along, but I certainly don't owe you an explanation for living my truth.
Mm, thank you. Thank you so.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, we have a question. Jules is writing, what if something has overtaken the heart space? I understand all of what you said and have done most of it. So I exist now for 3 to 4 years living in this nervous system. I appreciate hearing you.
What if something overcomes your heart space and you
Mm,
need more love? And I know it sounds extremely simple, but it is that simple. There's a recipe of love and truth, and that's going to cause you to expand and stabilize, expand and stabilize. And so, how I look at any emotions blocking my system from feeling something I want to feel, I look at them as a child. It's just a little hurt child. They ran out in the street, they got hurt, they need some love, they need forgiveness, and then they need some firm parameters. And that's what I mean about love and truth when I'm dealing with my own emotions or pain. It's you're okay, you're safe, you're loved. I want to hear what you have to say, but you need to move probably deeper into my heart if it's more blocking you from feeling. But you want to acknowledge it as part of yourself that deserves to feel love at this time, and then acknowledge it with the truth of your identity. The fact is, that's your human mind. It's not your divine self looking and saying, there's something blocking my heart. Your divine self knows you're everything. But acknowledge it with the most genuine, honest, tender, intimate love you can. Thank you for what you're teaching me. I give you gratitude and love. but I am already whole. And if you firmly believe that, your conscious and subconscious will magnetize and the fields will begin to entangle and collapse. And so it's always more genuine, more honest love or more truth.
Right. And it's a choice too, correct?
Mhm.
We can
Yeah.
make this, because I remember when you said the war in heaven was in your heart.
Yeah, I knew it was happening in me.
Was a war, a spiritual war that was going on for your heart. And I think that happens with
Oh, for my soul, yeah.
yeah, like because we get these these negative thoughts, these, things that are programmed in us from childhood that are playing out subconsciously in our life, and then we think that's our truth. So then, you know what I mean? So it's I think it's so important to know that we have a choice about what we want to align with, about what we're going to accept in our field, in our, even just, not to just, you know, just blow it away and say it's not there, realize it's there, and then, like you said earlier, send it love,
But
right?
it's basically emotional code for rendering your reality. So I want to make sure my emotional code is pretty good. If it's not of a higher frequency, I'm going to render a different version of reality, But yes to what you said.
Okay. And if somebody finds themselves in um like a state of maybe struggling with some depression, or just having a hard time, feeling kind of like, you know, beat up a little bit in the
Mhm.
world, what is something that you could say that could help them to slowly come out of that? What could they do each day just to get them to shift a little bit, and then, you know, just to kind of
Well,
to kickstart it a little bit?
it's important they understand that depression is really compression, and that if you can look at it in a more technical perspective, like, okay, you have too much storage on your phone's going to freak out a bit. Too much storage on your computer is going to freak out a bit. However, you can speak to your cellular memory, you can speak to your subconscious mind and say, I uninstall shame, guilt, fear, worry, stress, anxiety through my heart space, through the Christ, and I reinstall a program of divine love. And you can just start. You have to take a role, you have to take up some ownership, and you have the administrator password to your system. You are the administrator, you are not just the worker in there.
Mm-hmm.
And so speaking to it is the best motion you can make. And you have to start obviously realigning and claiming back some of your identity.
Mm-hmm. And what about asking for help, asking for God to help you, asking for your team, your angels, your guides? I
Oh,
mean,
for sure. Definitely prayer, asking, um, but pray in a way that is knowing that it's already finished. Like, I'm praying like I know you're already gone. Like,
yeah.
that's how I speak to my pain. That's how I speak to certain things that feel violating to my sovereignty or my choice to feel and think how I want to feel. It's an eventuality. You are gone because this is the body of the Christ. I'm just a messenger giving you that message that something is coming and it's going to unify you into a coherent state. But I'm firm, and I'm firm because I want my thought to go all the way down and ground and basically unify the conscious and subconscious. But yes, prayer. I'm always in prayer constantly. And I try to be in a constant state of prayer and meditation with everything I touch, whether it's mowing the lawn or cleaning the water faucet. I'm definitely going to look at, wow, did I do it different than I normally do? Did I do it efficiently or not efficiently? Did I clean that corner? Did I skip that corner? Because it says something about the energy in me.
Mm-hmm. And then one more thing about prayer, I had heard recently, and I thought this was beautiful. If the only prayer that we ever say is thank you, I think what's the name? Latzo said this.
Mhm.
If the only prayer we ever said was thank you, that would be enough. right? So when somebody is thanking, thanking God or thanking for the healing, right? Thank you that my foot is healed, or thank you that I have no more headache, even before it happens, right? That because what
Mm-hmm.
you're doing is you are saying that you're free of that pain, and then
Yeah.
that helps you to release that by being by having that gratitude. Is that
Yeah,
what?
you're pretty much aligning yourself with the promise, right?
Hmm.
You're aligning yourself with this image where the suffering doesn't exist, the pain doesn't exist.
Right.
But can I hold that in a sense of knowing? But yeah, I mean, when I'm praying, it's definitely the thank yous when you don't know what to say are huge. They're
Yeah.
like, just breathe and say thank you, because then this energy is just going to start growing. And so in the morning, I'll wake up and I'll grow that energy, and then I'll send it through my nervous system to imprint my cellular memory. I'll grow it, send it, grow it, send it. And that's the love, truth, love, truth. And it's because I want access to my whole nervous system, not just some.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Does anybody else have any more questions or insights, comments? Anything you want to say to Steve before we get ready to go? All right.
Do we
Yeah,
have
and then
another hour?
Another, and no, we're ending before 9. It's Carol B. I just want to see what she said here. Okay. So in meditation, Carol has received many messages about the sun changing and to pay attention to the sun. Do you have more information about this? Yes, you did speak about this a little bit in your talk that you were being told back in 2010, I believe.
yeah, they're not going to give me an exact date if that's what anybody's looking for, because they don't want you distracted from what you're doing. But they did tell me that there is like a sun in everybody's heart, and that
Yeah.
sun is responding to the sun out there. Um, and it was great because I heard some of this from an interview that confirmed some, but the sun is like the energy that we were created from. It's like where I came from. It's kind of like my home in a way. Um, but it's a portal as well. So just keep pursuing and eliminating what is not love.
Yeah.
That's really what they want you to do.
Keep
Everything's going to happen the way it's supposed to happen in natural divine order. And people are going to need your example of love, of unconditional love, especially in the times that come that reveal and turn people inside out, because that's what's happening. It's a polarity thing. The stuff's coming out, revealing, being brought to the surface. And, and right now, don't focus on, anything other than becoming a love.
I love that. And the 3-eye atlas, I feel like there's something with this that's happening, that's helping to shift consciousness. And I turned on, or I saw on something today that there are actually other crafts that are around this thing. Have you picked up on any of that, or do you
Little
get?
bit. I mean, it feels like there is, but again, as soon as my brain goes distracting you from the Christ, I go back to the Christ because I want to cultivate more of it, like the kid rubbing his feet on the carpet, until it becomes me and I float off into space. So, do I believe it's a ship? My personal first thought was it's another fad. It's going to come and go. And all it's doing is taking these people and turning them away from this love that they should become. That was my initial thought. Whether I'm wrong or not, I don't know. In the light that I might be, I said, because I've had my dealings with reptilians, so I know all about them. So if you look at it from a certain context, you might think they harm you, but they're really just a cat being a cat or a dog being a dog. So in that context, I said, if you have any light or codes that I need, cool. I bind them to the Christ within me. You have to go through the Christ. I will not accept this without it going through the Christ.
Right.
And then I went about my business.
Yeah. Well, my thoughts about it are, I think that it's helping people to wake up to the fact that there's more than just Earth, right?
Mm.
It's more than just humans. And I
Right.
think that's a really good thing, and
Oh, of course.
if it does just that, I think we're on a really good road with it, I find
Oh,
it,
anything that expands their mind. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I think it can actually open more people up to a lot more of who they are. So I'm excited about it. I can't wait to see what happens with it. All right, Lynn, did you have a question? Do you want to come in?
Yeah, I actually typed it out in a message.
Oh,
Stephen, you talked about something about letting something trigger you, or letting it be in charge. I can't remember exactly what it was, but something that triggers you is something that you need to.
Well, it's really teaching you. It's coming up to be unified.
Right.
It's
So
your inner child coming up going, hey, I think I still need to protect this space, but you don't.
okay. So if you recognize that and you see it in another person, say a family member, is there like a simple saying or a message or something that you use yourself that could help them go, oh yeah, wait, I forgot, to kind of remind them that it's that other thing that's trying to take your
You need to
energy,
speak
or
to the energy, not so much the person. And that's where you start to learn how deep our experience goes, and you start to expand your mind, like we were just talking about through AI Atlas, expanding people's minds. Your tug of war is with the energy. It's not with the person. It's with the energy that they can't recognize, that's hijacking their nervous system, that they've given permission to learn from. And so if you can speak to the energy itself in your mind, it'll hear you, it'll know what you're saying. You may even feel energetic response, but it should be pretty much thank you for what you're teaching us. But we're loved, we're whole. You're no longer allowed to enter my nervous system. It's a holy space. I don't even want to feel you until you speak to whatever creator you pray to. But it should be pretty adamant that that energy is not allowed to seep into your system. As soon as that happens, to me, it's no different than somebody breaking into my house. That's how very sacred I consider my nervous system, because it's the world I'm living in and I'm going to live through. So if somebody else is, having energy or whatnot, I love you, but I need to speak to that energy kind of separate from them and then re-engage with them, see how they feel. But I'm never going to put them in a judgment thing, because people are always changing and they're always growing and they're always going through different identities. Seeing them sometimes as just a cat or a dog, and all I need to do is love you. And sometimes you might poop on the carpet, but I understand because you're a dog. You're only doing what you're programmed to do. In other words, my job is to love you, no matter what program. That doesn't mean to be taken advantage of, because sometimes I'm going to want to hold the love and say, you're not allowed to take it. Guess what? Try to get it from me, because it's my identity. And so love is very strong. Sometimes it stays, sometimes you share it, but speaking to the energy can help putting up firm boundaries, of course, when it comes to anything that violates your sense of identity. And your identity is not something physical. It's not our sex. It's not this. It's not that. We're divine energy.
but it wouldn't be me. It would be to help nudge somebody else into that awareness.
To have them not be triggered all the time?
Yeah.
Okay. They need to be willing.
But she could
I
also
think,
speak to the part of the person that's
Right. Yeah.
being triggered, right?
yeah.
Continue
Then
Yeah,
speaking to
you
that's
could speak to their higher self, and you can
right.
also speak to this, you know, entity or whatever that is trying to hijack them in the moment by triggering them. So you can speak directly to that energy, right? Is that what you
Yeah,
were saying, Steve?
exactly. But before you go to bed, speak to them as if they're there. Give them the love that their inner child probably didn't get to feel. Give them the thanks for the things that you've shared and things like that. And it should help some with the emotional stuff, because I've had clients who hired me to work on people without them knowing about it, and have had some success. It's going to be how much you believe in it, believe it or not. How
Well, I do the
powerful. Yeah.
yeah, I do the prayer and I believe it, but
Right.
they're not so much that
Yeah.
way. It's a family member that I'm trying to help, and it would
So
be
try to
nice to
stretch
have.
that belief into a knowing, because I know that I have authority over all time, space, and dimensions through the Christ. I already know it. So if I'm speaking to an energy, which I've had
Yeah.
many clients in other continents, and I tell the energy it's got to move, it has to move. It's not a negotiation. Now, there's a difference between the belief and the knowing, where I'm not going to negotiate with you. It's an eventuality. It's a fact. So let me ask you, do you know how to make a cup of coffee? I assume so. And you
Yes.
might know how to tie your shoes.
Mhm.
And it
Yeah.
sounds silly, but I'd have a hard time convincing you that you couldn't. That's pretty non-negotiable stuff. That's where the identity should be. That's where these people feeling loved and coming through that stage of transformation, that's where your mind should be in that signal.
Where's their free will in that then?
Where's their free will? All you're doing is sending them love. You're not putting them in chains. You're not taking away their free will. You're simply saying, I want you to experience and feel what I experience and feel.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with that. If they say no, then that's their free will.
Right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, Lynn.
And I've seen major transformations in toxic family systems, including my own, by going to the field and sending the right energies there.
Mhm. Thank you. All right, Mike, you're going to be our last one.
I forgot what I was going to talk about. Anyway, I think Three Eye Atlas is not a threat to humanity. They talk a lot of garbage about
Yeah.
these things they are talking online, and I think the truth is a threat. I don't think it is, because if it was a threat, I usually receive a message somehow. If something is a threat to me, I receive a message right away.
Did you
So,
have a question, Mike, for
um,
Stephen?
what was the day? I forgot something else. Oh, something else I was going to talk about is I don't think even if they come down, they are gonna humanity. They still don't accept a lot of things we are
No,
talking
no.
about. They don't accept. Is I have a difficulty if I say something to somebody, they kind of they don't take it. They don't accept it.
What if they come down and they exude all of this love frequency that just opens people's heart up to their being here, and they
It's,
can't believe how happy they are? What if that happened?
yeah, that could change if they come down. Not to stay in their spaceship, they have to come down.
Yeah, well, they
Because
can
if they
do
come
that.
in their spaceship, people are still think, "Oh, this is government's spaceship."
But
They can emit that frequency of love.
Right.
They can. These beings.
Yeah.
but I mean, I'll be honest with you. That's what the star seeds have been saying for years. Oh, they're gonna come and get us in ships. Oh, they're gonna come for the star seeds. And I'm like, the whole time, I'm like, I'm just over
That's what they
here.
were talking about.
Yeah.
They were talking
Like,
about they're coming to get a starship. Why?
Well,
I
I don't
don't
know
get
if they're
it.
coming to take anybody. Maybe they're just coming to share what
No,
they
they
know.
maybe.
give them a little tune up. That's what they're coming to
Yeah,
do.
exactly. A little tune up. Little tune up. We need a
Yeah,
little
it's
tune up.
possible. It's possible. They could have come and trying to give a message to a starship. A starship, like I don't know what's the message going to be, but there is something they want them to do. Maybe.
Yeah.
Hey, dude, if you got codes that help me do something, fine. Give me the codes. But I don't believe there's anything you can give me that Christ can't. Otherwise, my faith is crippled. But that's the way I feel because of the experience I had. I love everything to go through here, and if I need to hear you, I'll hear you.
That was very good to hear from your experience, everything we went through.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you very much.
Thank you
I
for
wish I
sharing.
could include more, but because there's so much, but it's literally hard to kind of keep in order. There was so much for a short time.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Mike. Well, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
All righty. All right. I just want to say to you, Stephen, thank you so much for being here. It was so wonderful to have you share your story and your wisdom and your love with us. And I'm just so happy that you were here with us today. And oh, I saw another hand, but that was Mike from before. So everybody, I just want to give you a little shout out about next week. So next week we will have our safe space sharing group, and that's Tuesday at 7 p.m. and that's 7 p.m. Eastern. The clocks, I think, get set back, right? Do they get set back this weekend, or is it next weekend? Anybody know?
I think it's next weekend.
Oh,
Don't quote me though. I'm not
all right.
great
Well,
with time.
we'll pay attention to that, whatever's going on with the clocks. But
I think it's funny.
Monday, November 2nd, it changed.
on the 2nd. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Mike.
It's funny
All
that
right.
human beings made time, but they never have enough of it.
Yeah, and then they have to mess with it twice a year. So only in this part of the world. All right, guys. Thank you so much, all of you, for being here. Thank you for your presence and your great questions. And thanks again, Steve. Much love to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Blessings. Bye-bye.